Welcome to the Hard Water Fishing Show. Jeff and Jason talk tactics, gear, and ice fishing legends.
We are alive. Woo-hoo! Season 6, Episode 1. It is the second week of September 2022. Jason, we're starting early this year.
If our show was a person, it's going to kindergarten this year.
That's right. 6 years old.
Or got held back a year. Man, don't they go at 5? I don't remember. That's so long ago for me. Is it 5 or 6?
I was 5. No, when I was 5, I went
Okay, so it's first grade.
Birthday.
Oh my gosh.
Could be first grade depending on your birth
Yeah.
date.
Right? Yeah, well, it would have been a fall birth date.
You and I would
so
have
it'd be
been in first
5
grade.
turning 6 probably. Yeah, I was young. I was a June. Yeah.
You and I would have been in first grade.
8, I was not ready. I spent a lot of time on a chair in a corner. That's what I remember.
Oh, that's why they sent you to private school, Jason.
Yeah. Kindergarten wasn't, though. That was public. Then I was on to parochial, yeah.
So we will talk about fishing in this episode. It probably won't be ice fishing quite yet. We'll get there this season.
We will.
It's a little early yet. But
the water is soft.
The water is definitely soft. There's no ice report.
No.
Nowhere in the belt are you going ice fishing. But we do have a topic tonight, Jay. What are we talking about?
I think we're going to do a summer fishing recap, and we're going to talk about trolling motors. Is that what I'm remembering?
Yes, you are correct. The show notes say that.
Oh, I should pull up the show notes.
Show notes, Jason. It's electrifying, and there's a little twist to the name of our topic of our podcast. Because do you know what happened this summer?
No, I don't.
Sandy from Grease.
Okay.
The actress who played Sandy from Grease. Do you know who that is?
Yeah.
Well, she passed away this summer.
Okay.
The song "Electrifying" is from the movie. And what did you think about it?
Okay, so
is this too far? Is it too far off? We went.
You went somewhere I didn't expect you to go. We're into pop culture now.
Well, we went to the movie theater because they showed Grease on. We have a drive-in movie in our town.
Okay,
believe it or not, we have a drive-in movie in our town. So they showed Grease on the drive-in movie.
And so now we've linked that experience to our season 1. Our season 6, episode 1, it's electrifying. Are you going to play that song on the? Are you going to put some of that music in here? I'd probably kick it out for copyright reasons.
There's no way that we have that kind of budget, Jason.
To buy the rights to that. Can we find a piano version or a ukulele version, maybe? Or you could just sing it. You could just sing it, Jeff.
I can guarantee you could sing it a lot better than I can. I can't sing, and you were in choir, so
I'm still not.
That's your job.
Nope.
It's electrifying. Anyways, that's what we're calling it.
So to get us out of the hole we're currently in, Jeff, what are you drinking tonight?
So I am drinking from Indeed Brewing, which is one of my favorite breweries in Minneapolis.
Okay.
Here. It is called the Day Tripper Pale Ale. And so it didn't have anything on the can. No description, because every good beer should have a description.
Correct.
So I, of course, looked it up on the web, and it says, inspired by escapades near and far, large and small, Day Tripper Pale Ale is your companion in everyday adventure. 4 pounds of hops per barrel give this West Coast style pale ale a heady, dank, citrus-laced aroma, supported by a complex and subtly sweet malt backbone. Take it along to the lake, the trail, or even backyard, and you will be well on your way to the next good day.
You always lose me on dank. I don't never think of dank as something I wish to consume, but go ahead. Open the can.
We're in the carpet territory, if you don't.
Clearly. The 5 pounds of hops per can or whatever it was.
4. Let's be
4.
accurate. It was 4. All right, so it's good. I've had it before. It's very good. I've been going away from the IPAs lately. I've been really enjoying some other ones, pistachio cream ale and other ones. But it's good for today. So,
okay.
So Jason.
So I went down into the basement of my home, and I found a bottle with a little dust on it. And what I'm drinking tonight is a home brew. Nice. I don't remember what kind it is. My father, I think I've shared before, is into brewing beer. And so every once in a while when I see him, he brings me a box of stuff and I drink it. And that's what this, and it's really a good arrangement. So I'm gonna open this up. Hopefully it's got some fizz yet. Oh yeah, there it went. I don't know if you could hear that or not, but it'll be a good one. You can tell. We'll do a little pour.
Oh, it's out of a
little
glass.
Pour action for you here. Yeah, it's got a good head on it. I didn't do a very good pour here. I wouldn't make it as a bartender, I don't think. I could give the advice, but not pour the drinks. So yeah.
Ooh, it looks kind of red.
Yeah, I think this is like a Turkey Mountain or Turkey something ale. Turkey ale.
Turkey ale. I don't think I'd want to drink ale with
it's good. It's kind of almost a dark, but not quite.
It looks good. It looks like a red almost.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of shoulders to it. So I actually, it's a good one. I enjoy it.
It's not dank.
It is not dank.
I don't even know what dank means.
Google it quick. So let's look at the definition of dank. We're going to take it. This is going to be a show about side trips. So
Urban Dictionary.
Yeah, sure. Dank. Disagreeably damp, musty, and typically cold. So disagreeably damp and musty is not like the taste I would go for. Dank also means dark, sticky, gooey, and potent. A common word to describe disgusting basements and caves. Yeah. So it also, yeah.
But whose beer came from the basement? Not mine.
Apparently, dank is also a slang term used to describe something as excellent. That's dank, dude. Especially marijuana, apparently. It tells you how much I'm in the culture.
This is just normal beer. No. Well, it's not really illegal in many states anymore, but anyways.
Yeah. All right, you enjoy your dankness over there.
I will. All right. So a big shout out to our patrons, Jason. They've stuck with us all summer.
Amazing. Thank you.
We appreciate your support. Even though we're not recording in the summer, we still continue to actually have a lot of the same costs all year round. So it does help us pay for our website hosting and podcast hosting and, kind of software that we use and that kind of stuff. So appreciate everybody's support. We like doing this and it's fun. So thanks for helping us keep on going. And we will still have some benefits to our patrons too as the year goes on, that we had like what we did last year.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Do you want to cover show business, Jason?
Yeah, let me get down to there because I don't remember what it was. Oh, we're going to do some Amazon affiliate links, I think, this year to keep trying to pay the bills. Gear, hardwatershow.com/merch. It's on our website. We are on Facebook and Instagram. Our website, hardwatershow.com. We do have YouTube. You can email us, hardwatershow@gmail. I'm back to checking the email again occasionally. Mm-hmm. So that's picking up. Jeff, you got a new one that you put on here, Linktree something?
Yeah, so Linktree. And I think we have a TikTok too that we have one or we need to recreate one. But I saw this on TikTok. So it's called Linktree. They use it on TikTok because you don't get a lot of space to put all your links. So I'll put it on the website, but basically it's just a link to get to all of our links.
A link for links. Okay. So it's like a phone book. It's like a phone book.
Yeah. So instead of going, what was that Instagram handle for the Hardwater Show? You can go to Linktree and it has Facebook, Instagram, the website, our merch. It's just a Linktree.
Okay. So. I also wanted to give a quick shout out on Fish Donkey. One of the organizations I volunteer with, Des Moines Soapbox Derby, is attempting a fundraiser fishing tournament fundraiser fishing tournament. We're doing a fishing tournament on Fish Donkey to raise money for the organization. There we go. And so if you got some time, it runs through the end of the month. Feel free to join, and we're just doing cash prizes. So splitting it up amongst people that participate. And there is a wild card, so you don't even have to catch big fish to win. Jeff, I thought of you specifically. a random drawing. So if you're so inclined, feel free to join that. We'd love to have you. We have no fact checks, Jeff, because we haven't dropped any facts yet this season.
I know, exactly.
So that's good. That's good.
It's hard to be wrong when you haven't said anything yet.
Sometimes I manage it, though.
Yeah. So speaking of email and stuff, there was one email that we got late last year that missed a show, and it was from John, who responded to something we talked about. He was from Pulaski, New York.
Oh, yeah. I've been there.
Yeah, and that's why he responded. So he fishes typically on Oneida Lake in New York.
Okay.
So he sent some really nice pictures of some perch and some walleyes, like nice ones on the ice. So
very cool. Well, thanks for sending that in last year. Or this year. I suppose it was this year, but this season.
It was March 3rd, so I think we had been done recording, but it was still like he was still catching up. So, yeah, so appreciate the support, John, and the email. And
so, do we have a fishing report?
I mean, I guess I do. I've been out fishing a little bit. How about you?
I've done some fishing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, you kick us off.
Oh, well, like most recent, you want me to like start the most recent?
Yeah. Let's talk about the summer, because let's talk about recent, but we'll work out
So you want me to go back? So let me think backwards here. So I've been fishing. I fished on the river here by my house a couple of times, several times. I've fished the Mississippi this summer. I've been up to the Boundary Waters and fished that, and I've been up by the Walker Hackensack area, and I fished that for a week this summer as well. So I've gotten out, which is good. And I don't always get out that much in the summer, so things are looking up in the world.
I don't know. Most people probably know what the Boundary Waters are, but probably not everybody. True. So what are the Boundary Waters?
Boundary Water canoe area is a wilderness on the north edge of Minnesota and the south side of Canada. And so it's a permit-only area, and you portage your canoe on top of your head and pack your stuff in, and you travel into that wilderness area, and there's designated campsites, but they're not reservable. So there's so many sites and so many permits given at any entry point at any given time. And I don't know how many entry points there are. There's over 30 entry points into this area. And each entry point has a specific number of permits they allow per day. So we went in to Moose River and ultimately paddled our way down to Bald Eagle Lake, which was pretty cool. As we got into Bald Eagle Lake, we saw 3 bald eagles. So it was aptly named. Got a really nice campsite. We were only there about a day and a half for fishing, and the fish were snapping. They were, we had brought worms and we're doing Lindy rigs. So this was second week in August, just to kind of give a timeline. Second week in August. And we'd start off Lindy rigs and worms, and that was picking up some walleyes. Not a lot, just kind of slow, northern here and there. So then I switched to a Rapala, a flicker shad, number 7, or 7, whatever it's called, and it's a silver kind of a deeper diving Rapala, and man, they love that thing. They wore the paint off of it in about half a day. Caught multiple walleyes, northern, and some really nice smallmouth. So it was the best fishing I've had with a Rapala in a long time, which was great because it's like awesome. Super easy, especially when you're paddling and trolling in a canoe. So I'm trolling along, and with a Rapala, you just set it in front of you and they slam it. You try not to lose your rod over the side of the boat. So, yeah, it was good.
So why didn't you bring your motor? I mean, was it broken?
You can't. Good question. So the Boundary Waters canoe area, it's non-motorized. So you cannot bring a motor, trolling motor, boat motor. It's canoes, paddles, that kind of a thing.
Human powered.
You can't run a sail even, I think, legally. So yeah,
but no
electric, either, nothing. Yeah. So when we did our winter trip, Jeff, that was in the Boundary Waters, and so that's why everything was a hand auger when we did that trip, because you can't even bring like a drill to drill a hole with an auger in the winter. So yeah, it was a great trip. One of the kids, I went with my son and 2 of his buddies. One of the kids knew like all the star stuff, like stars, like where they're at, who they are, and what the deal is with them. And so that was pretty cool, because at night he could say, well, this is, I don't remember any of it, of course, but he could point out different things. And there was a meteor shower going on, so we got to see quite a few meteors, and it was a really, It was really a good trip. Ate some fish tacos and caught some fish in the river on the way down too, and the way back up to the lake.
Cool.
Mosquitoes were horrid.
Ooh, that's hard. See, that's a benefit to ice
so
fishing.
Yeah, you don't
get
we have
mosquitoes
never
in the
had to do a
winter.
bug report ice fishing, which is good.
Yep.
They were the worst I've seen them in 20 some years of going up there.
Wow.
In the mornings, usually you just have that witching hour in the evening.
Yeah.
This was in the morning too, and then started about 5 o'clock. If the wind died, you just had to wear a head net and you had to wear long sleeves, and they were fine. But
sure.
I got a neat video of my kid. He didn't have his head net on quite right, so they got in there with him.
Oh, we have video. We have YouTube, Jason.
I could put that. I could put that video on YouTube. Yes, I will do that. I will upload that to YouTube because it's kind of funny. It's pretty funny.
That's awesome.
So he doesn't listen to the show, because he's my kid, and it's not on YouTube or if it was.
It actually
yeah,
is
no,
on
but if it
YouTube,
was
but it's not
if it was
cool
a
enough.
3-minute clip, he'd probably watch it. But listen to me ramble for an hour. He got plenty of that in his childhood. Probably doesn't want to do it again.
Yeah.
So that
Exactly.
that was my trip. So then we'll kick it over to you to tell those stories. Otherwise, it's just too much of me rambling on.
Too much
of
you
me.
in Boundary
Yeah,
Waters.
and it was great, man. It was great. But the Rapala was the key. And they were all...
That's awesome.
God, depth was about 12 feet.
Okay.
So I'm always surprised by that. I'm always surprised how, the common knowledge in a lot of people is if it gets warm, go deep. But I would say that midsummer, August type timeline, I've caught more fish in 10 to 14 or 8 to 14 feet than I've ever caught, in 25, 30 feet of water. And this lake was somewhat of a shallower lake too, so that could have been it. But I found that on other lakes too.
Yeah, I think it's that goes to every lake is different, right? I mean, you're in the Boundary Waters, so I think one of the factors there is going to be fishing pressure, right? As you said, they limit how many people get in there, and you can't bring boats. You brought worms, but your live bait options are pretty slim.
Yeah, you've done leeches. You can't. It's minnows don't even have a will to live when it's that warm. I think a big part of it is the rocks. So you find those they're just lumpy areas. They've got a lot of boulders, a lot of nooks, a lot of crannies. And then I think that casts a shadow. So when you get, the walleyes love that. They love those rocky points and those drop offs and the edges of all that stuff where they just get in there. And then I think too, when you're fishing out of a canoe, your speed is so slow compared to what you would normally even do at the lowest point in a boat. You're just crawling along. So, I don't have a speedometer on my canoe, and my fish finder doesn't have that. So, I just have a real basic thing I bring up. But
you just lick your finger and point it in the air and go, "This feels like 0.9 miles per hour to me."
I just watch that line. If that,
yeah,
especially with a Lindy, I just always want that line just a little bit, like at a 45-degree angle from the canoe.
Tap, tap, tap.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the tap, 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 man. That's what you're looking for. Now with a Lindy, or with a Rapala, you just paddle along and keep it moving and watch the action on the edge of the rod,
Yeah, no, that sounds awesome. Well, I think too up there a factor, it is, if you think about like where, I'll call it Twin Cities area or metro area here, even to Mille Lacs, it's a very different lake up there that you're fishing up in Boundary Waters. Like you said, they're usually deep, like very deep. Not all the time. You said that one's not deep, but they're usually deeper. It's very rocky. Like it's not muddy typically. A lot of the lakes up there, right? You're talking big rocks.
Yep.
That kind of like, it's very glacier almost more.
Yeah.
It's really very different than fishing like Mille Lacs or Red even, or even like Lake of the Woods, right? Like even though that's on the border too, they're different. The Boundary Waters, they're very, very bouldery and rocky and that kind of thing. So.
It's a lot of fun though. To me, it should be on everybody's bucket list to try it at least once and to just experience the quietness of it. It's pretty amazing how quiet it is up there. And you don't have any artificial light. So it's the stars. You'll never see anything like it. If you don't get out of the city, far, far away from civilization.
Just don't let your buddies tell you about the stories. Be like, you should come. Last time we almost died.
Yeah, but we didn't. So the point is we didn't die.
But like that was always like you wouldn't believe it. We almost died.
We're a little, you know,
you coming
you're a
next
little
time?
dramatic. We're a little dramatic. I think the older you get, the less dramatic you get because you get a wider range of experiences in your life. And where you think you almost died, you really didn't.
It was just a close call.
Now it's more about, well, I hope the heart doesn't go.
Yeah, up there you don't have much of a choice.
No, nope.
I guess the one thing, I haven't been out fishing very much. I get pretty busy in the summer. Not that you're not busy, but you get out a little more than me. Although I had a recent fishing report I'll talk about. We were out a couple weeks ago. So we were out in Mille Lacs fishing the flats, which means just kind of like shallower spots in the middle of the big spots.
Yep.
Mille Lacs is just kind of a big open basin, right? But there's spots in the lake where it'll come up to 12 feet from 20 feet. It doesn't really get much deeper than 33 or so feet. I don't know what the max depth it is. But so in the middle of summer, to your point, you fish this like you traditionally fish walleye. You would go deep, right? What's working out there right now on Mille Lacs is bobber fishing on the flats, right? Just a leech and a bobber. It seems probably the least sexy way to fish for walleyes, but you know, it is what it is. So that's how you catch them. So we caught a couple out there. Nothing big. Actually, Noah caught, it would have been great for your fishing contest. I think it was 3-inch, 4-inch walleye. I mean, it was one of the smallest walleyes I've ever seen.
Oh, nice. Yeah, you should have registered that. It wouldn't have surprised me coming from you.
I mean, the hook, the hook, it was, I'm surprised it could bite on the hook, but it did. So, and then I caught, I think it was a 15 when we were out there for a couple hours. So it wasn't bad for a August evening, you know. Mm-hmm. It was cool, nice nights, dead flat water, just hanging out in the flats, bobber fishing, listening to the Twins game. Cool. I mean, pretty nice day, right? And then, so this is the good part of the story. So then the next day we had planned on going to, there's another lake near it because, you know, sometimes Mille Lacs has a lot of restrictions and other lakes have a lot of restrictions too. We didn't keep any fish, but we wanted to maybe catch some panfish, right? And sure. I honestly don't know how to fish panfish on Mille Lacs. I've seen people catch them. I've never seen one. They're not really on my end of the lake, and with my 40-horse motor and boat to drive across the whole lake will take me like a very long time.
Just bring a sandwich and give her heck.
It goes about 25 or 26, and it takes me a half an hour to drive up the lake at 60. So I don't know what the math is there, but it'd take me a long time to get that little 40-horse would be cruising. We're out trolling, and so all of a sudden, you know, you always dream of this, right? That your children want to do the things that you want to do. Most of my life, I have 3 kids, have shown zero interest in fishing. Like, they will tolerate being in the boat for a couple hours because it's fun to be in the boat, right? But like actual fishing, not much interest. So suddenly my youngest is way into fishing.
That's awesome.
Like a light
That's
switch.
Awesome.
Like it just turned on. He's like, he wants to fish. I want to fish. I want to fish. So I'm like, super great. He wants to catch pike.
Okay.
Right? He's like, Dad, I want to catch big pike.
Not rocket.
This is one of the reasons. Yeah. So this is one of the reasons we went off Mille Lacs. I know there's big pike in Mille Lacs, but I mean, remember, we're not experts at everything. I haven't been very successful at catching anything but walleyes and smallmouth out of Mille Lacs. Just haven't.
I want to back you up a minute on something you just said. You said we're not experts on everything. What exactly are we experts on?
I'm good at picking out funky beers. For
okay,
the podcast.
I will give you that. Yes,
that's an expert skill that I have. You're good at buying gas station beers.
So far, I'm good at not dying. I'm going to take that. That's so far
dying.
I have been able not to die.
But we haven't mentioned fishing, right? We haven't said we're good at fishing or anything related to fishing.
My head is full of useless facts. I will say that.
All right. So anyway, so we go to this other lake because we want to catch pike. I don't exactly know how to catch pike on Mille Lacs. Now, the world record muskie came out of the lake, and I know there's big pike in that lake, but it's a big lake, and I wanted to try a different lake because he doesn't care if it's a snot rocket or a 40-incher. We want to catch pike, right? And there's this lake, and it has that super awesome pike structure, right? Reeds all around it. You can just troll, right? Because when I fish for pike, I don't know how you fish for pike. Well, I know how you fish for pike because we fish for pike together. You troll with the main motor, even though we're talking about electric motors today. The main motor, right? So I just put on my 40 horse. We troll how we've learned to troll, right? Jason, you and I have trolled a lot together.
Yes, we have.
And how do we usually do that?
We put spoons on and we troll in circles.
And we use which motor?
We use the big motor.
Not the small motor, not the trolling motor. And I could.
Not the troll, because we didn't have such things.
But, and you could, right? Like, there's nothing...
Oh, absolutely you could.
There's nothing stopping me from using my bow mount, but it just seems right to use the big motor versus the trolling motor. I put on the Honda 40, and it trolls down pretty nice. Mm-hmm. It doesn't like to troll at like 0.9, but for pike, I'm usually trolling... 1.5, 2. Oh, I was doing almost 3.
3, you can do 3. So, I've done walleyes at 3.5.
So I was doing 3. My goal was like 2.9 or 3, okay. Right? So we're trolling 2.9, 3. It's a weedy lake. I'm trying to sneak as close to the weed edge as I can. Okay. Which means I want that spoon to scoop over the top. Yeah. And I'm using we use these all the time. Those, what are those spoons that we used to use all the time? They were like lipped. Oh my gosh, I'm blinking. What are they called right now?
Lazy Ike?
Yes, exactly. So I'm using a Lazy Ike.
I don't know how I got that.
Lazy Ike.
Yeah. We used to use, that's what we used. We used Lazy Ike.
We use
that's what my grandpa used.
It's like a wave. If you think of a daredevil, it's a
Lazy Ike.
Teardrop, right? But a Lazy Ike has a bend in it, and it makes the wobbling action.
Yeah, it mimics a wounded bait fish.
There you go. So we're mimicking wounded bait fish, trolling for pike, and I caught a 19-inch walleye at 3 miles an hour in 8 feet of water.
Just shows you what we know. I mean, so I've done that on night fishing on 10 Mile Lake years ago. Mm-hmm. At night, you'd throw on a big stinking Rapala and you'd troll about 3.5 miles an hour, and you could barely hang on to the pole. And the way you knew you had a fish is the pole bent less. But just fast, just cruising by, and I think they just get mad and eat it.
Yeah, and I'm doing the big motor, so there's all this your motor's noisy, and which I'm sure it is, and it still didn't matter. So, and I got all excited. I handed Noah the rod. I'm like, Noah, you're going to catch a pike, and I'm like, oh, it's a walleye.
Yeah, I mean, I've got more pike tactics than that, Jeff. I think I probably adapted over the years to a few new ones. Especially if you got a weed bed to play with.
So anyways, that was my fishing report. Flats on Mille Lacs with leeches and bobbers. I mean, if you read anything, that's what they're going to tell you too. It's no big secret, right? And Lazy Ikes for when you're trying to catch pike but want to catch walleyes.
So I think the one I'll share next, Jeff, is and this will go to the story at the end of the show, but I was fishing up on vacation this year, and the lake I was on was not really a walleye lake. It was a bass, and a crappie lake. And I got to admit, I have never actually targeted crappies open water. Because I'm always fishing walleyes. I've never targeted them. So here I am on a lake with really a very small walleye population. And I did find one, by the way. It took me a week, but I found a walleye. Found where he lived. And I ate it, too. So maybe there's none in there anymore. But I found one and I ate him. So I had to find crappies. There was a couple old duffers on the lake fishing, and they were there every day. They were nice enough to talk to me about how they were doing it. Of course, every morning, for the first couple mornings, I'd come in, they're like, how'd you do? I'm like, nah, I didn't catch anything. They're like, they've got a half a limit or a whole limit.
Of course.
So they were great, great people. First, we've met some such great people ice fishing, and these people were great open water. And literally the third day, they're like, you need to get closer to our boat. Like, who says that? You need to get closer to me. you're not in the right
Said
spot.
no fisherman ever.
Yeah,
Said
just
no
great
fisherman
people.
Ever. Yeah.
Show me what so I'm just, I'm going to copy everything. So I ended up getting the right lure. But here's why I go. Number one, just to show my ignorance. Number two, so the spot we found these crappies, or where these crappies were, was a spot I never would have looked. So this was a typical bowl lake, and it had a ridge where it came up shallow. Well, there was a particular spot, the lake, and this where the lake came up, but then went back down and then came back up. So it was like a hole in a shallow next to a hole. Okay, and not like a lot, like just 2 feet difference. I never would have thought, okay, this is where because the lake had 60 feet of water in it. So you think in the middle of summer, where would you go look for crappies? Deep hole, right? Yep, nope. They were in 10 feet of water in a 8 foot flat.
Huh.
Spot on the spot. Never would have thought to look there. So certainly learned in just throwing a little jigging it back.
Sure.
And this always blows my mind. No bait, no worm,
no bait.
No,
wow.
Just a little plastic.
Okay, plastic.
Little plastic,
okay.
Yeah, a little jig with a black plastic, yellow jig head and a black tail on it. That's what they wanted.
Huh.
And 8 crappies. Went with my one walleye.
Do you think anybody ever describes us as old duffers?
I had a lot of fun on that trip. So there was another guy. It was just a really friendly crowd on this lake. And so I'm cruising along in my old Alumacraft, and this guy swings by, and I was just fishing. He goes, "Nice old Alumacraft." And I'm like, "Yeah, dude." And didn't realize, I was like so taken aback by the interaction, I didn't notice he also had a nice old Alumacraft. Oh. So then it's a small lake. So every time several times that week, every time he would slow down, I'd wing by him, I'd slow down, I'd turn the motor off, I'd wave and go, "Nice boat," and then I'd take off and go again.
It sounds like solid dad joke territory to me.
It was a nice people, really nice people.
So for a not having a fishing report, we talked about fishing for at least 10 minutes.
And that always, it takes me back to, if I'm not catching fish, I'm talking to people. I'm like, "What are you doing? Show me.
Yep.
I will watch you. And if I can tie up to your boat, I will. Or drill a hole next to where you're standing, because, even at our advanced age, which really isn't that old, but there's so much to learn, and every lake is specific. It's just fun. It never ends. The fish are always there, right? Because I would have gone out and said, "The fish are not biting this morning," and the guy next to me's got a limit.
Yep.
Exactly. And so that's what keeps me out there all day, because I'll find them. Just keep working.
For sure. All right. So, awesome fishing report. Hopefully that helps somebody somewhere. And gear. I have one gear update, Jason.
Give it to us.
All right. So I've covered this before. I had the Frable Magnum bait cooler, because you have the Ingle cooler.
I do.
And I have the Frable Magnum bait cooler, which is certainly Magnum. It's very big. But I use it in the summer.
So many jokes I want to make right now, but I'm just going to let them slide on by.
The Magnum bait cooler, yes. So when I take the Magnum out...
It's the only thing Magnum about you, but go on.
That's what it's called, the Frable Magnum bait cooler. So last year, I had the Frable Magnum bait cooler. Now it's a commercial.
You're going to put this on the affiliate links, as you've said it 85 times?
I know. We do not get sponsored by these guys at all. But I put it in the back of my truck, and it was, like normal. It was cold, right? And I leave the... So these things can get stinky, right? You kind of warned me about this. It's got a net
You've got to do some maintenance.
Yeah, you got to clean them out. And
put the net in the dishwasher when your wife's not around.
Yeah, that I haven't done. Note that to Era. I have not done put that in the
That's not what you told me. But go on.
When I did not put it in there, I usually I rinse it out good, and I leave the top open, right, so it can air out, right, so it just sits around. And I usually put there's 2 plastic latches, and I use one of the latches to kind of wedge in the middle so the top doesn't close, so it airs out. So it was like 20 below or something, and I put it in the back of the truck, and of course, they're plastic. I shattered them like glass. I mean, they just, they blew up. So I was kind of sad because these things are like...
They're not cheap.
They're not cheap, and it still worked, except the water leaked all over the place, which kind of sucks. I emailed them and said, hey, it kind of sucks. This broke. Can you get new ones, or what do you do? Well, they sent me new ones. They sent me new latches. Awesome. They were actually replaceable. They had 2 screws in them. I mean, crazy. They break, but you can get new ones. And they didn't charge me for them. They just sent them to me. It took quite a long time.
But you got them.
But I got them. I put them in there, and now it works good as new. So I just wanted to call out that Frable
stood behind their product, sent you. Yeah. And that's, things break, especially in the conditions we use them. So that's really nice that they stood behind it. You have to take back all the bad things you said about them.
Yeah, I know. I never said anything bad. But I do really like it. I use it in the summer, too, because even though I have a live well, I can bring that into the bait shop. They dump some water in there. They put them in there, and you can run them back and forth. You don't have to deal with bags, and, you don't have to worry about, they're very... These days with all the lake water and stuff, it keeps it separate. Yeah. It's in the cooler. You're not transporting that water around, so I like it.
I still use the old-fashioned minnow bucket when I'm on vacation for a week.
Yeah, that works great when you're at the lake and you can dunk them in.
Well, I use a rock and I always sink them. Do you ever do that? Or do you just let them fry at the top? Yeah, that's the way to do it. Do the same thing with the leach bucket. So you take and you put a rock in the bottom, and then you chuck it off the dock so it gets down about 5 feet of water, because the water's cooler, and so then your minnows don't croak.
Yeah. And that works really good if you're on one lake, but man...
Yeah, when you're moving from lake to lake...
Not a good pet. Or not anymore.
Yeah, you can't, because you got to kill them. You can't transport lake water.
Yeah, so that's the nice thing about this. I can keep them in my cooler with water that's not from the lake, and you don't have to worry about transporting them. So anyways, that's my one gear thing. I wish I was talking about was getting a new snow dog, but that's not under the list. So
didn't get the allocation for that yet this year, huh?
I don't know. This year might be tough. Maybe next year.
That's what we'll. It will not be. And mine, if I ever get one, it will not be that either. It'll be a non-planned, spur of the moment purchase. Yeah. When you're like, you happen to have a little bit of money in your pocket, and there happens to be one there, and you're like, now is the time.
Yes. I know. I saw a used one, the home built one, for $600, and I'm like,
there's guys. I've been following that market. There is some guys out there that are building them kind of on the side, which is great, and they're running about $1,200 to $1,500, which isn't terrible.
No,
it's if you can get sub 1,000, you can sometimes sneak it out of the budget.
The new ones now are close. They're getting upwards of,
and that's just a whole nother. That's a chunk to just say, hey, honey, do you mind if I sneak this out of the savings account? Yeah,
spend $4,000 on a lawnmower with a track on it. No,
yeah,
they're more than that. They're more than that. They're very cool.
They are cool, but.
I also worry about my age. I've seen people bounce around in those things in the sled before and gone, I don't know if I wanted to.
I know. Do you think we missed the window on these?
We might have. I mean, I don't know. But I see.
You don't have to go 80 in them.
Yeah, they don't go 80.
But it feels like 80 when you're sitting on a folding chair in the back of a sled.
Yeah. Driving a lawnmower engine thing. I think they're a little bigger than lawnmower engines, but.
Well, yeah.
So that's that. I'm just speculating on gear now. That has nothing to do with any experience I have. All right, but we do want to talk about. I guess our topic is kind of gear too. It's electrifying. We're going to talk about bow mount trolling motors, not grease the motor.
Yeah,
bow mount trolling motors. So Jason, you got a new one this year, right?
So I have to. Yeah, I gave Jeff a really hard time when he bought his. Do you remember that? It's pretty well encased in history.
I overspent
your summer fishing and underallocated your winter fishing.
Yes.
So I did the same, but I did not, for the record, did not buy a new one. I bought a used one at a pretty significant discount. And so I bought a Tarova iPilot trolling motor this year. And, if you can figure out how to afford one for summer fishing, although I would still make sure your winter fishing gear is up to par.
Yes.
It certainly made it. Where was this stuff when I had little kids? I mean, it was pretty nice. It was relaxing to run it, because you could just point it in a direction, hit the heading button, and it would take off, and just go the way you wanted it to go, and you could dial it back. A lot has been made of the link, where you add the trolling motor for the Minn Kotas, the Humminbird, and you link them together, and it follows contours. And I thought a lot about that, and the trouble is I don't have the appropriate fish finder for that, because I've just got a little Helix 5 in the boat. And then by the time I bought the new link and a fish finder, I mean, we were talking more than I spent on some of my cars. It just really gets expensive. Would have been in the $3,000 to $4,000 range probably to get all that done.
Yeah. I think that's about right for I would say
for entry level.
You can spend more, but
that's like just buying a 9, like a Helix 9, and the chip and the fish finder and the trolling motor, and then the batteries, and because I didn't have any trolling motor in my boat previously, so I had to go from zero.
Oh, I wasn't counting.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And then wiring because I had nothing, so I had to go from zero to this. So you got to wire it. You got to buy new batteries. You got to buy the mount and the boxes for the batteries and a charger. So I did it on the cheap as I could do. I bought a used one, and I paid about $800 for that. And it's an older model. It's like a 15, I think. But it worked perfect. Has the remote and had the foot pedal. And then bought 2 batteries from Menards. Bought the 27 series trolling motor battery. They're 180 amp reserve amp on those. They're $109. So paid for a pair of those from Menards. Got the 11% rebate too.
Yeah, so they weren't even 100.
Yeah, well, so just about so that a lot of people you spend more than that. They go the AGMs, or now everybody's doing the lithium. But I'm fishing.
That's a whole
just to give people an idea what I'm using. So it's a 24 volt boat, 24 volt trolling motor, the 80 pound thrust one. I have a 16-foot Alumacraft Lunker from the 80s with a 40 Merc on it. So not a big boat. And it's certainly the batteries would last me all day. By the end of the day, I had to go from if I was fishing at a 3, I had to go to a 4. To kick it up just a little bit at the end of the day, but it still fished all day. So, and I used it all day. So I'm just trolling along and just happy as a clam with that thing. Didn't use an anchor for a week.
Yeah,
boy, is that nice! Holy cow!
I don't use an anchor.
Yeah. That's nice.
I guess if I ran out of juice, I would use an anchor, but I have to run out of battery before I use an anchor. But that is nice.
I would say they work better with a little bit of wind than they do in the calm.
Sure.
It seems to hold, with the older one at least, it seems, because it wants to move, so if it's kind of moving and it's getting a little pushback from the wind, then it seems to hold you really well. If it's dead calm, then it kind of drifts a little, and then it moves, and then because it's so calm, the boat moves further than it wants, so then it fights itself. So dead calm works less well than with a little bit of current in the river or a little bit of wind. But man,
no, I mean we actually have very similar summer fishing setups, right? I mean they're really close. I mean, there's not a big difference between what I've got and what you've got.
Except I've got a 2-stroke Merc.
Yeah, mine's a 4-stroke Honda, which I will admit is very nice, but it's not new. It's 2000. I mean, it's 22 years old, but it sips gas and works great.
Yeah, no, I like my rig. That thing will run 30 mile an hour with me and another person in it.
Yeah, mine won't go that fast.
So, but that's just a whole design different too.
Yeah, mine won't go quite that fast. We're talking 26. Okay, so back to trolling motors. So I think a couple things you mentioned that made me think about it. One, you talked new versus used. I mean, you can find used ones out there, and I think your mileage will vary with that, right? You found a good one?
A lot. Very, very nervous until that thing was in the water and working. Because what are you going to do? Go find the random guy you bought it from on Facebook and yell at him, which I would have done. But I didn't have to, which is nice.
I guess if you had a trusted friend, but beyond that, Facebook Marketplace or something, I mean, I think you're going to probably do okay. But it is a risk,
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, not even the warranty part, just that you would buy something that didn't work, right? It's not that it doesn't have a warranty. That's probably not that big
So
a deal,
one thing I did do, and mileage will vary on this, is before I bought it, I looked at the model number, I went to Minn Kota, I looked around what is available for parts. Can I get a remote? Can I rebuild the motor if I need to? Can I get parts? And I could for this particular model yet. And so I felt better that, okay, here's my downside. If I get it and there's water intrusion in the lower, can I get a rebuild kit? And I could. So, okay, it still suck, but it's not a complete boat anchor.
Yeah. Right. So a couple other things I know. So one thing that we have different. So I bought a 12 volt, and you have a 24.
Correct.
So the biggest difference in there, and I used to think like, so mine's 55 and yours is 80 foot-pounds. The foot-pounds doesn't matter. Our boats are, power-wise, it wouldn't really matter. I remember I saw on YouTube, they raced a 55 versus an 80. The difference in speed was, you could barely tell. It's really not about the power they give. It's about how long they can last. So like,
and I generally outlast you.
So a 12 volt a 24 volt will go more than double than a 12 volt. I am not an electrician, but you will be able to last longer with a 24 volt than a 12 volt, right? I mean, it's just how it works, and not just double, but like over double. So that is the biggest thing, I think. For me, there's two reasons why I went with the 12. One was cost, because the 24 volts just cost more. And the other thing is, I would have had to modify my boat to get two batteries in the front. Like, it's not that I couldn't have. I just would have had to do further modifications to fit two 12 volt batteries in the front of the boat, right? Or I would have had to run big wires all the way to the back of my boat, or something like that, right? And so it's just a consideration. It's not I could have done it, but it was one other reason. And then, so that's probably the biggest thing, right?
And I had, on my boat, it was my father-in-law's boat. I bought it from my mother-in-law. And when they rebuilt it, they had two, there was a center, it had two side compartments, but then they kind of brought those out towards the front of the boat. And so there's two good spots centered just behind the bow seat to put those batteries. So I knew I could fit two batteries. And then you have to buy the wiring. The charger was another thing. I'm trying something. We'll see if I get by, but I found this charger on eBay or on Amazon that some Chinese thing, but what the heck, it charges anything that it senses from 0 to 36 volts. So it'll charge 24 volts at 24 volts.
Okay.
So I cut the end off of it and I put a plug on it the same as my trolling motor. And so I unplugged the trolling motor and I plugged the charger in, and it back feeds and charges the batteries. And so far, so good. I couldn't think of any electrical reason why it wouldn't work. And I've charged them, and I've then tested both batteries independently, and they both test charged. So it seems to be working. And it was $35 compared to a Minn Kota, dual bank charger that's $100 and some bucks. So I'm gonna see what happens.
So note, we are not licensed electricians or boat riggers or anything like that. No,
because for wire, so I'm always about how can I do this cheaper. And so for wiring, guess what I use for wiring? You'll like this.
Jumper cables.
Absolutely.
I didn't do it.
I did jumper. I bought a good set of jumper cables for $20 with 6-gauge wire. They were 15 feet of wire, which is more than what I needed. And I cut the ends off them bad boys and rigged the boat. And I kept checking them for the whole week I was using it, and I didn't have any issues that I can tell.
Yeah, I rigged my own too, and I bought just some wire. It's expensive. It's cheaper to buy the jumper cables, but I just...
And I was only running that wire 5 feet at most on both sides to where I connected them in the front. So I wasn't running the wire, 15 feet either.
Yeah.
So.
But no, rigging is we could cover that a whole other thing, because that was a lot of work.
Miserable.
Yeah, it's not fun because boats aren't meant to wire.
I have no patience for that. as you know.
Yes. And you know, I tried to make I soldered all my things and put crimpers on there and so, I mean, we could talk about this topic for a long time. I think the other difference, like Jason said, and this was a compromise, right? Like, so my trolling motor has the Link, and I have a Helix that I use for ice fishing too. So it is dual purpose. I have a Helix 7, which is the smallest one you can get that works for the Link. So, but the biggest difference, I think, and I thought it would not be that cool, but I have that follow the contour.
So you have the Link,
and it's pretty sweet. I mean, like, is it necessary? No. It's pretty sweet, though. So that's the one. Really, that's what you get. At the end of the day, that's what you get with that.
Yep.
Is you are able to point at a contour, say, follow the contour, and fish. And it just drives around the contour, and it's pretty stinking accurate.
So I thought a lot about that, you know, because I don't always, so often when I fish, I don't follow the contour. So I do, but I don't. I'm zigzagging. I always zigzag. I found I have the best luck if I want 12 feet of water, I run 10 to 14. And so I go into 10 and I come back out to 14. I'm just constantly crossing that 12 foot. If I think that's where they're at, that threshold. So that bait is coming off the shelf or on the shelf, off the shelf or on the shelf, versus just dragging along it. Now, again, wouldn't say I know what I'm doing, but that's how I fish, and so that's how I talk myself out of spending another chunk of change.
Oh. Yeah, and I usually, like, you'll run down one contour, you just point at the next one, and you run back down it, and you can you can just kind of walk up or down. So, and you can go across too. It's so easy to do that's usually what I do, is just follow the contour.
Yeah.
And the one thing that we both have that, like you said, is the anchor,
the spot lock.
Spot lock. Oh my gosh! I mean, I haven't used an anchor since.
Now,
right? I mean,
what I still use though is I still swear by the old buoy.
Oh,
I'm telling you,
but see,
when you hit the walleye and you know it's a walleye, that buoy is getting chucked out with the other arm, because.
But I have a button that says mark the spot, and then I can just drive my trolling motor back to it. But then
you're trying to find that little spot, throw that orange buoy out, and that thing goes, and I know right where I caught that fish. And I can troll in circles around it till I'm tired of trolling in circles.
But my trolling motor goes back to it automatically.
It doesn't seem like it gets you right where you want, and you're looking. It's not
used
precise
it
enough for me. I'm still stuck. I got one foot in both worlds yet.
It sounds like to me like it seems a little like old duffer mentality going on.
It works. It's low budget, low tech, and I can see my buoy. Then I can look outside the boat versus staring at the screen inside the boat.
I just say go there, and then I don't pay attention, and it just goes there. Buoy or not the buoy, I am still going to go with the electronics to that one. I don't even have them in my boat anymore. All right, we talked a little bit about battery size. I do want to try I would love to buy a lithium one. They're just like $800.
They're coming down. I mean, there's some off-brand stuff that's coming down.
They're lighter, and they don't lose power even the gel cell ones or whatever. They, like you said, they lose power as they get low. The lithium ones, although once you're done, I think once it's out, it's out. But it's a trolling motor. You just use the other one. We talked about spot lock. Oh, foot pedal. This is an interesting one. I mean, I've only had mine for 2 seasons. I have yet to use the foot pedal.
Yeah, but you're not a big bass fisherman. I think a foot pedal's a bass thing. Like when you're casting and you're, I don't do that. So,
but if you're a true bass fisherman, you're going to use a cable one anyways. These ones with electric, I don't think you're using them. They're way too slow.
Oh, is that what?
Have you ever used the?
I have no experience with those, so I couldn't tell you.
So the cable driven, if you look at most bass boats, because it's like a direct drive, right? Like you can move your trolling motor. It's like a quick ratio. Think of like a slow car when you turn the wheel. They're like super quick ratio, so you can like really fine tune control the. And so, I mean, the electric ones work, but you still have to wait for it to kind of swing its head around and stuff. It's a little slower. So I mean, somebody can tell me I'm wrong, but I think a true bass fisherman is going to use a cable-driven one. I mean, I could be wrong.
Yeah, we're far outside our expertise zone here. Yeah. Not that we have any expertise, but
I mean, they wouldn't make them if people didn't use them. I mean, they're definitely different than like these electric ones that we've been talking about.
Does yours have that lift assist on your Terova?
I don't know. It goes up.
Does it have like a little box on it, like sticking out the top of it? I think you bought it the year before the lift assist came out.
I don't know. It's the only one. It's the only Terova one they make.
Okay.
I don't know whatever it has. Shaft length. So I think yours is longer than mine. I've got a 55 for my boat, which is not a big boat. It's a Lund Rebel, 16-foot Lund Rebel. 99% of the time it's fine. It does come out of the water sometimes and mille lacs, but that's only when the water's coming over the bow of my boat. So could I use a little longer one? Probably, but
I think is mine a 60?
Maybe mine's a 60.
Or 70.
Mine's not a lot.
I don't know.
They make like mine's kind of the mid-sized one. They make a really long one. Mine's not the long one, but I would get the longer one if you can, because
I thought the one I got was going to be way too long for the boat, but actually, it's perfect.
I mean, when I'm on mille lacs and it's rolling, it'll come out of the water.
What I like is it's just tall enough that from the back of the boat I can see the head over the top of the head of the person sitting in the front seat. Yeah. So I can tell which...
Oh, gosh. Yours is really tall.
Well, it sticks up maybe 1.5 feet off the front of the bow.
I mean, I have mine to the bottom.
Oh, no. Mine's up about 1.5 feet.
No, I have mine to the bottom.
And I like that because I can see it over the head of the person in the front of the boat.
Yeah, you must have a longer one.
Yeah, maybe it's... I don't know. It came off of like a Lund Taihi or something.
Yeah, so it's probably a deeper one.
And I think you can cut them. There's a way to do that, and I thought, well, I'm just going to run it for a season, but it actually works. And I did a contraption too. I mean, we could talk about this forever. So I was pretty proud of myself on this. So you needed a mount to stabilize the head on it. Yeah. So when you're going across the lake, and so most of those are set up for newer boats that have rails or a little bit of a width there, and I don't have that. And so I'm like, what am I going to do here? So I went into my garage where all things live, and I found a yoke from my transom saver. The transom saver I bought for the boat had a yoke on both sides.
I don't know what a yoke is.
So a Y.
Okay.
Right? A Y with a little stem on it. So I have a yoke. Okay, I can put some foam on that, and that can hold the shaft of the trolling motor. Okay, now I need to attach this to the boat. So I'm looking around at my shelf, and I see a rod holder, and from a base, a gunnel mount rod holder base, because I'd used the one that went flat on the seat, and I chucked the other one up on the wall where all things live. And I'm like, okay, I've got the top and the bottom now. And then I'm like, so PVC. Have you ever done anything with PVC pipe? So PVC pipe, you can take, and so I had inch PVC pipe, and you can heat it with a heat gun. Yep. And so then I heated it with a heat gun and formed it to go into that rod holder. And then the end of that yoke had a square on it that was about 1 inch square. So then I formed the top of that to go into the top of the yoke. Sure. And then I attached the whole thing, screwed the rod holder to the gunnel of the boat, and I have this yoke with a stem on it I can take in and out or put a fishing pole around, put the rod holder back in. And it cost me $0.
Yeah, I guarantee that stuff is all expensive.
Yeah, it was like I was looking it up, and it's like $150 to try to put this, and it still wouldn't have worked for my boat. I would have had to manufacture something. So it was good because
I don't have one on my. I don't have.
Really should. I've heard stories where people will be going across the lake and it's bumpy and the thing will deploy.
It's got a lock.
Yeah, but if you don't move the collar all the way down, back, because I leave the collar where it's set correctly. So then, I
think ours works.
There's a lock. The motor comes into the lock, but there's accounts on a bumpy lake of that. If the head gets, you have a shorter shaft, so maybe it's not as much of an issue, but it'll bounce enough that locking mechanism will let go, and that trolling motor will deploy. And if you're going 30 mile an hour and that trolling motor deploys, there's a whole lot of sadness going on.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how it would compare, but it's possible, I suppose.
Well, it does. Google it up. It's a thing.
Because it's like a 2-stage system to deploy. It's like a foot pedal. You have to push down, and then you have to push down. Oh, maybe. I don't know.
I'm just telling you.
My boat doesn't go 30, so maybe that's why.
I'm just telling you why I did what I did, because
I've looked at them and they cost like $100, and I'm like,
yeah. So you make one.
We can talk about next level, and we can talk about trolling motors for a long time. But we had 2 other things that I thought about. Have you seen the Altera?
Yes.
It auto deploys.
That's the boat ramp that just let the boat go into the water and it deploys itself, and then it drives itself to pick them up.
So I thought it was gimmicky, right? It seems gimmicky, right? Except it's a safety item, because when you have to go to your front of your boat to deploy your trolling motor, and if it's rolling, it can be a little treacherous getting up there. But if you just push the button and it deploys,
I'm going to say it's a safety item, because then you can maybe put it on the list.
Yeah, well, if you think a Tarova is expensive, these are not.
I just don't know the world that I would allocate that much money to it, and I'm glad people do, but I'm not ever going to do that.
I know. Don't say never, Jay. Don't say never.
I don't.
All right.
I just know.
So the other thing to think about, and this will be our final closing thought, not that there's way more we talk about trolling motors, and we both just talked about Minn Kotas because that's what we have, but there's other brands too. Boat cover. So think about that. If you're getting a boat or thinking about putting a trolling motor on and you have a boat cover, think about how that's going to work.
I already did that. I've got a quick release plate.
I do too.
So I just take it out.
I have a cover that was, last year I got a cover after I got my trolling motor, and the cover goes over the trolling motor. Because, it's not that you can't take it off, but they're kind of a pain. Even with the quick release, it's a big wieldy thing to deal with.
It is,
right?
Yeah, granted.
It's not the easiest thing. So the first summer I got it, I think I was nervous about it, and I used to take it off. Now it's just locked on my boat, and so be it if somebody sawzalls it off my boat, I guess. But yeah, it's nice to have it under the cover. So just something to think about. If you have a cover already, think about like quick release, right? Or if you are getting a boat, make sure they think about all that stuff. So. Well, we could talk about trolling motors forever, but we're sitting about an hour 10 here, Jay.
Yeah, time goes, man.
So you do have a legend for us, though, right, Jay?
I do have a legend. It's not it's kind of a legend. So it happened this summer. So we were on our way up to vacation, and we are in the cities, and we get a call from my brother-in-law, who we go on vacation with at a cabin. Rented a resort up by Hackensack area. And he goes, hey, we just got a call from the resort. They don't have a cabin. They double booked. And the other family already checked in. So we're already 4 hours into an 8-hour trip. And there was no cabin. None. So what can that guy do? He can't kick the other family out. They're already there and unpacked. So we should have gotten up earlier, apparently. So of course I'm like, well, fine, we'll just buy a tent and tent camp for the week. And I was getting all sorts of pushback from the back seat where my daughter was and my wife, and she was not looking forward to that. I'm like, well, it'll be fun. It'll be cheaper too. And so no. So the resort owner tried to do his best. He called. He was going to try to find a spot, and then I called a buddy of mine who had gone to a lake up there for years, and he put me in touch with that resort. And that guy didn't have an opening, but he knew a guy who had a resort on this lake, Webb Lake, who had a bunch of people, several people cancel because of illness, which we know is still a thing going on. And called the guy up, and he had a 3-bedroom cabin with air conditioning on the lake with a dock available. Wow. And this was Saturday. And I'm like, we'll be there in 4 hours. He's like, okay. So,
wow.
My wife and sister-in-law, God bless them, were like, well, how many bathrooms does it have? I'm like, it's a bathroom.
More than
I think
zero?
it's got,
More than zero?
It has indoor plumbing. It had one, which they thought was Not quite as many as they would have liked, but I found it perfectly acceptable from my perspective. You know, it was a great cabin. It had a great view, a dock on the lake. And the guy saved our trip, you know, by having a cabin. And we were still 10 miles from where we normally go. So it was all the same places. We were able to eat at all the same restaurants, and the ladies were able to do all the same shopping. And I got to fish a whole new lake and had a really nice time. So the name of that resort, I was going to share that because the guy was wonderful. And so I'd like to give a shout out to people that do good work. Blue Water Resort on Webb Lake. And so I want to give a shout out to him for the time we spent there. It was really a nice guy. Rick is the owner of that. Really stand-up guy, him and his wife. Nice people. So we'll remember that for a long time. I tell you what, to be going on vacation and then not have any lodging all of a sudden. In June in Minnesota, trying to find a resort opening for 8 people in the same cabin. You know, what are the odds? And not spend $10,000.
Right. Yeah.
You know, this was within a couple $100 where we had stayed previously. And I will again say that the other resort owner felt terrible, and he actually made up the difference and helped us out on that too. So, and I won't mention them because they're great people. It was just an honest mistake, and that happens sometimes. But we did not ruin the trip, amazingly. So
sounds like a legend.
It was, it really was. Yeah. It was an interesting time.
Cool. Well, for episode 1, we got in some good time, talked a little bit about ice fishing, but also a lot about fishing.
I am looking forward to ice fish. I made eye contact with my ice shack the other day in storage, and it kind of whimpered a little bit. And I said, "It's okay, buddy. We'll be there soon."
I saw the end of October is the first ice show coming up here, so
we're going to go to that.
If you want to come up here, it's end of October.
End of October. I don't know if there's anything going on. Where's it at?
I mean, it's in Blaine.
Blaine, okay.
Near my house.
So. Okay.
You got to wait for the big show, Jay.
Well, I mean, one can always do more than one ice show.
Oh, I will, I'm sure. All right. Well, great first episode, and that'll wrap it up.
All right, tight lines.
Cheers.
5.
You've been listening to the Hard Water Fishing Show with Jeff and Jason.
Say goodbye.
One of the most unique podcasts on the planet, where we talk about tactics, gear, and ice fishing legends. We'll be back soon.
Bye-bye.
Till then, signing off.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.